Hello, good evening and welcome to Spotlight on MX24 television. My name is Nwong Falong. It's impossible to conclude the conversation around what has come to be known as the anti-LGBTQ plus bill, which is going to be laid before Parliament shortly, in the next few days. There's a critical part of that bill that speaks to intersex persons. This is a part of the conversation that has remained untouched on. Tonight we're going to touch on it, more than touch on it, discuss it here on Spotlight, because yesterday was Intersex Awareness Day. So today we're going to be finding out exactly how they feature into the conversation and question the angles of the bill that speaks to them. We want to get some understanding on it, and we want to also understand from their perspective too. I have some interesting guests in the studio, very knowledgeable. We'll be speaking to Pete Marino, who's a director of a movie that has been well popularized in Kenya. We'll speak to him shortly. It's a movie about a gay couple. We're also going to speak with Reverend Professor Joseph Osafo. I was just speaking with him before we came on air. It would be interesting for you to listen to him. This is a man who has distinguished himself in his field of psychology. There's also Pastor Emmanuel Alute, who's going to be joining us shortly. Let's go for a break. And when we come, you meet my guest properly, and then we can dive into the conversation. Stay with us.
It's been a great first year, from the engaging shows that are now part of your daily routine.
This homecoming era has never been this fascinating.
Now it's time we took things up a notch. To the excitement on our social media timelines. Join us in celebrating 13 months of giving you fun, fearless and factual content.
I love it.
As we unveil a new bouquet of shows, amazing events, and incredible giveaways. Stay tuned over the next couple weeks as we turn things up. Scan your DVB-T2 compatible TV or multi-TV decoder to MX24, or stay up to date with us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. MX at 1.3. Let there be fun. Celebrating 13 months of fun, fearless, and factual content.
Welcome back to Spotlight. Thank you for staying with us. The question we are asking is simple. Yesterday was Intersex Awareness Day, and we want to find out if they have rights, if they're being discriminated against in any way, and exactly what is the reality of this biologically different gender. He's the head of Department of Psychology at the University of Ghana. He's also been a lead investigator on various projects in the areas of suicidality, maternal child health, and mental health. He's the resident minister at the Church of Pentecost and the chairman of the church's committee set on the LGBTQ plus QI plus bill and related matters. Very interesting. I'm also going to welcome Adam Sean Ejay, who's on the line with us. Hello, Adam.
Hello.
Yes, Adam, thank you for joining us on the phone. No, Adam is on Zoom with us there. Adam, you are going to be telling us more about intersex persons, because I understand yesterday was Intersex Awareness Day. I will not claim authority over the subject because I am also still a learner. And so it will be interesting to hear more from you. So I'll come back to you shortly, but let me also welcome our other guest who's on the line. Sorry, before that, Edem is the Executive Director of Key Watch Ghana and the Chairperson of Intersex Ghana. So he knows exactly what he'll be talking about. So let me go to our other guest who's also on the line. Pete, welcome all the way from Kenya. Thank you for joining us on Spotlight.
A pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Pete is also the director, Pete Marino. He's a director of a movie that was shot in Kenya, detailing the lives of... Let's take that quickly, and then we'll come back. It's going to give our viewers a bit more perspective on the subject, and then we can come back to the discussion. Please stay with us.
Start doing meet, but I was a footballer. But because of something, so I dropped. So I was doing meet for the main time, driver meet.
Okay, but presently, as we speak, what do you do for a living?
Nothing. I just do home.
So you're unemployed?
Yes. I was a footballer, but they said I was intersex, so I can't compete with the women side.
Who told you that?
They called me for the national team, so they dropped me because of I was intersex.
What's your name?
Ateva Holali.
Do you feel sick?
No, sometimes I feel sad.
Okay, so you feel sad.
Yeah.
Why do you feel sad?
Because I'm different from others.
When a baby is born, there's a common question. Is it a boy or a girl? But whoever wonders, what if it's neither? Holali just wants to play ball. She considers herself a woman. However, the stakeholders of football do not think so. And so in 2019, when her big break came, she lost her chance to play for the Black Queens after a medical exam came back unfavorable. She was declared intersex.
Did you know about this before the medical exam?
Yeah, I know. I was treating, and even my national players, like my team players or my team managers, coaches, even don't know anything about it. So I was treating it before they call me for the national team. Because if I don't go to the national team, my director will say, oh, or my coaches will be saying, oh, I do you something, or I help you to go to national team, but you don't go. So I want to go. I was treating in Okofonachi before they called me for the national team. It was 2017 and I started before they called me for the 2019. So I went and they checked and they dropped me because of I was intersex. At home, I don't bath with anyone. So I know it is normal. So the time I went to Kumasi Sports Academy and I bathed with one lady and I found out, no, mine is different from there.
But before that, your mother or father didn't talk to you about it?
From the day I saw that, I went home and I asked them why this and I show my mother why, and I called my junior sister and I said why mine is different from her.
Welcome back to Spotlight. That was a quick look at our previous documentary on intersex persons. It's a more extensive documentary. You can find it on our social media pages. You can also find it on YouTube. Very easy to find it to watch. I intended to invite Holali to this discussion, but she tends to get very emotional, so it's better we leave her out of the discussion. Let me also quickly welcome Pastor Emmanuel Alute, who has just joined us on the line. Hello, sir. Good evening. Hello?
Hello.
All right, great.
Hello.
Yes.
I can hardly hear you.
Oh, I could
Hello?
barely hear you myself. Can you hear me now?
Hello. Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes. We're just going to try to
Hello.
reestablish
Yes, I can
that.
hear you now.
Okay, great. I think
I can hear you now.
fantastic. I thought we're having issues there with the line.
I can hear you now.
Welcome to Spotlight. Thank
Hello?
you. Yes. Can you hear me?
It's not coming through.
Okay, so I think my producer will just quickly work on that line there. We'll try to get the connection right, but you'll join us shortly. So let me just go to Edem Shone J, who's on the line, and I would like to find out from him exactly what intersex awareness means and what activities did their community do to mark it yesterday. Hello, Edem, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
First of all,
Good evening.
Good evening. Did you've seen that documentary, haven't you?
Yes. I contributed to that documentary. So
Yes, I remember interviewing you. But when you sat back and you watched the full documentary, what was your opinion?
I think it was professionally done, and you covered a lot of angles. Yes. So I think it is good.
What did yesterday mean to you?
Yesterday, World Intersex Awareness Day is a day to tell the intersex stories, to create the awareness and the visibility that sex character is not only male, female, as people are being taught to believe or think. And also to show that intersex is not a sexuality. Intersex is a biological trait, or it's all about biology, how the maker made the person. And also show that intersex is not a mistake, because God doesn't make mistakes. And also show that surgeries done on intersex children without waiting for them to get to ages that they can consent, and show more visibility to where their chromosomes are leading to is very wrong and must be stopped. So that's what the day means to me.
Interesting. See, what stood out for me there is he said intersex is not a mistake because God does not make mistakes. But Reverend, you are here. Should I put you on the spot?
Oh, why not?
Reverend,
Let's go ahead.
You are also a pastor. You're a man of God in the Church of Pentecost. One of the very sensitive spots when it comes to religion in Ghana. Do you recognize intersex persons?
Yes, I've worked on some people who are intersex.
Okay.
So let me, we don't need to just revisit this and explain why this happens. But I think that what is most important is to make a remarkable statement. And that is, first, it is important for us to be aware that nature makes mistakes.
Oh, okay. Please explain that.
Okay. Now, there are, so let me try and put theological and biological angles together. Now, when a gentleman was speaking, he says, God doesn't make a mistake. So from a theological perspective, when God made man, in Genesis 1, 2, and 26 and 27, he said, and God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply. So fundamentally, that statement means that the power of procreation, to a certain degree, has been passed on to humanity. Be fruitful and multiply. God made the first man. God made the woman. But passed on that ability. So within every human beings, sex producing hormones or abilities to be able to make babies. But you see, because there can be chromosomal aberrations and because there can be hormonal imbalances, you can have a child in a cell division, there may be errors. For example, hemophilia is a blood condition where your blood cannot clot. So when you have an injury, you may bleed to death because there must be coagulants in your blood to stop the bleeding.
Okay.
We have also seen, for example, what we call conjoined twins, Siamese twins. I mean, it's a mistake in there. And clearly, we agree that no, something is wrong. In some instances, they can do the assessment, and when there is no need and you cannot correct, they leave it.
But these are conditions in which they usually there's an effect on their lifestyle. There's, for example, if you use conjoined twins, for example, they struggle to live.
No, but they are separated. Some are successfully separated, and people have made names in the world for separating conjoined twins, and they have been celebrated. Great guys.
Because they want to be separated.
No, because we thought that no, you have to separate them. Look at the other side of it.
Okay.
Cleft palate. If you give birth to a child and he has a problem on the palate, what do you do? I mean, we take the kids and say, no, let's correct it. This is an error. And we do it. You can have a child born with a hole in the heart. What do we do?
No, but what if the person says they don't want to be corrected?
Are you sure that somebody will have a child? The same scientific community will say it's an abuse of the child's right. I'm just leading you to just see a certain angle of the argument.
Interesting.
So you look at all of these things. Look at somebody who is born with sickle cell. It is a problem. It's part of the aberrations. Why are we still searching for treatment for sickle cell? Because we know that nature makes mistakes. We still are doing this.
Okay,
I mean,
the point you're making is that it should be corrected.
That nature makes mistakes, and scientifically, we have been able to say, because nature makes mistakes, you see, this is how science reasons. Science reasoning is this, or scientific reasoning is this, that we now understand why this happened, so let us intervene. If you look at scientific reasoning, that's how it goes. This has happened because of that and that and that. Can we intervene? Let's intervene. But you see, as soon as we lift up the argument and you bring it into sexuality, then everybody say, no. Leave them. It's very funny, because...
But I think he also made a very profound statement saying it's not a sexuality.
Okay, and that is quite interesting for me to hear, that it's not a sexuality. Because, see, when we talk about sexual orientation, we simply are talking about someone's attraction towards object or towards someone. The attractions at the sexual level, at the romantic level, at the psychological level. That is different from a gender identity. Now, gender identity is what you were born with. So let's assume that I went to the hospital, my wife gave birth, and the doctor logged in and said, boy. But when my child began growing, he said, Daddy, I don't feel like I'm a boy. I feel like I'm a girl. And that's what I call gender dysphoria. So the child is beginning to feel something. And then if, as a parent, I affirm the child and say, okay, what you're feeling is fine, then the child, as he grows, he may choose to start transitioning from what was assigned to him at birth to what he feels he is. Okay, so when you look at the LGBT, whatever, the issue goes on sexual orientation and sexual identity. These are the two key things.
Right.
So it's quite interesting to hear that. It's this. They are choosing a certain gender and a certain orientation that
which they have a right to choose.
Okay.
Don't they?
We don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
We'll get
Do you think they have a right to choose their orientation?
So let's look at it. You see, the entire argument about the LGBT is this. There is a certain fluidity to keep on adding any kind of sexual deviation. Is added and say, it's all right, keep it. It's all right, keep it. Now, do you know that if parents over the years had said, and I'll give you an example. If parents, the next time, if parents say, well, I gave birth to a child, and we just noticed that he has this cleft palate and we want to keep it. I mean, he should grow. Because some of the cleft palate will open you up to a lot of infections.
Aren't we overly expanding?
We are not.
Because this
the
has
argument is, no, we are not.
with
You see,
identity
and the argument is that it's because sexuality is at the base of human reproduction and human growth. That is why it's become very, very sensitive. It is the same thing. When abnormalities occur, science says, let us intervene. Look, you know the Caster Semenya case?
I do.
Okay. Now, if we do agree, why was the AAF insisting that the young lady should go for testosterone treatment? Because she had, it's the same scientific community.
You know,
the imbalance here and there sometimes makes it very interesting. So I agree that people, and I've told you as a clinician, I've worked with some of them. If the person comes to me and says, and some of them will come and say, I feel this way, and usually it's a feeling. All right, as a clinician, your job is not to just start condemning the person, because there is some kind of, if you like, biological arrangement in the person's body because of certain aberrations. So you need to be a bit cautious and listen to the person.
Right.
And some of them will go and come and tell you, I would want to make a choice of where I want to go, at least for those I've worked with. And they will say, okay, I want to do chromosomal analysis first. So let me go and see my doctor. Then they will come and tell you, I have more of maybe male chromosomes, and so I want to. But there is also the intersex, where there are clear neuroanatomical disorder, which is that the genetic, physical expression, there are problems there. Then we have those that are neurochemical. You may not see any abnormality, maybe on the external organ. It may be a little bit, maybe it's not developing breast much. The person may be a little bit effeminate or perhaps masculine if he's a female. And some of them will tell you that when I did that analysis, my doctor said that I have so much of this chromosome, so I think I want to go there. I mean, no quarrels with that. There's nothing wrong.
Okay.
The last point is this. The issue is this. Now, when a person identifies with a particular community and actively is recruiting others, and
that's where you have a problem with.
That's where the issue is.
Okay, but if the person is not, I don't think anyone actively recruits people to join them in their, gender identity or sexual.
I work as a clinician.
Right. Okay. Maybe perhaps.
I can tell you it happens.
Right, but you're saying if they do have a right to choose, that differentiation is there.
They do have a right, and they will always. Usually, they do the choosing by getting properly informed.
Okay.
By medical analysis, that you have a lot more of this. Even there, the medical doctors will not force them.
Okay, but should they be forced to undergo specific treatments towards a conclusion that society wants? Maybe society wants them to be you to be a woman, so society forces you to undergo treatment to become a woman. Is that necessary?
Okay. So this is where the discussion gets interesting. Now, if you look at the draft stage of the bill, you will see the portion that says that if you are intersex, there are issues, certain issues in the bill that are still being worked on. So, for example, if the person chooses that, okay, after the analysis, I can choose to be a male, I can choose to be a female, but I prefer that I am like this. I don't think anybody should force you. So I know that people have raised certain concerns in those portions of the bill. The only part, and so as the bill...
Do you think that part of the bill is problematic?
Oh, that part will be worked on. I'm sure it will be worked on.
Okay,
Yes.
because let me just quickly...
I have seen, if you look at it from that perspective, that part needs a certain...
retooling.
Yes.
So we agree that part needs some amendments.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
It does. I mean, it's just like, you see, the point is this. That's how I gave you the initial part. If your child is born, all right, without an anal passage, will you say that the child should be kept until he grows? You won't say that. You will say that, please correct it. Let's find, can we help?
Reverend.
So once the person is older, here's the point. once it was not corrected, and the person is older, and the person is choosing that I feel comfortable in this, I feel that part needs to be worked on.
Okay. Let me just take that part of the bill. I should also mention that in this documentary, when you watch further, I interviewed other people, and it's interesting that you mentioned Caster Semenya,
sure.
because she was one of the examples we used. I also spoke with an athlete in Uganda who had actually allowed herself to undergo medical treatment to be more feminine, as was required of her, and she regretted it. You know, there are a few athletes out there who have been convinced to undergo that. Most of them do it because without it, they wouldn't be allowed to play. And then it just messes up their lives. They cannot even play anymore. And some of them they are fine, just living as they are without any specific medical interference to make them this or that. But in the bill, we see that there are a few restrictions. First of all, there's a prohibition of adoption under the order for LGBTQ+, let's just say, persons. And here it recommends that the court shall not grant an application for adoption or order, whether inter-country adoption or otherwise, if the applicant is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, goes down to include intersex. There's also, in 23, the ministry shall liaise with an approved service provider to provide assistance in the form of therapy or any other assistance relevant to the circumstance to a person who may be questioning the sexuality of that person, or for a parent whose child is intersex, in order to, where necessary, assist the parent realign the child to the appropriate binary designation as determined by a medical practitioner.
So let me respond quickly to that. So you see, when a bill is mooted, as you know, it is at the draft stage. There will be debate. You question certain sections of it. Fundamentally, I support the bill. But the intricacies, there are a few things that need to be worked there.
Okay.
So, for example, a quick one there. If you see someone who is a questioning, for example, where I say a psychologist, there are people who will be confused about their sexuality. They are questioning, who am I? You cannot say you are just condemning the person and criminalizing the person. The person may need help.
Okay.
So there are a few things that have been drawn. I mean, the attention of those who are leading the bill have been drawn to, and there's going to be rigorous debate on this. Each level before this finally, if it passes out, it passes out. So, and this is a draft stage. So we have to separate what we are seeing now from the fundamental perspective that is in the bill. That's why I ask you that if I find, I've worked with a number of intersex. I thought I'm a clinician, and I haven't found any intersex, for example, who goes about. I've seen people who are effeminate, and you have seen some of those when you were growing up. We often call them in account, could you be here? They are effeminate. When they are talking, some of them may look very masculine and whatnot, but they may not be engaged in any other, homosexual behaviors, as in activities that are currently, not even this bill, but activities that are currently criminalized in Ghana, like sodomy. They may not be engaging. I mean,
Prof,
I know people like that.
Let me bring in the other guests.
That's fine.
We're leaving out of the conversation. Let me just bring in Pete Mourinho, who produced a movie, in fact directed, he's a director. He directed a movie titled I Am Samuel. Let's just take a quick look at that movie. It details the lives of gay persons in Kenya and some social pressures that they face. Let's quickly take that, and then we can take Pete's submission.
Alex, mimi ni Sami. Alex ni mpenzi langu la maisha.
Biashara yangu imeoshwa. Hajakuwa kama zile za Bunyori. Ndio ile ya Bunyori. Pale nilikuwa najificha kwa mama. strong. Go sure. Sasa nakwambia ikikatika. Ikikatika. Okay. Oh. Good. Utakimbia. Hapa. Na hilo. Ikukate kabisa.
Tulipatana naye mwaka mmoja uliopita. Namwelewa na ananielewa pia. Tunafaana. Lakini Peter ambaye yuko nyuma ya kamera hizi alinishawishi ya kwamba nihadithie mambo yangu maana ni ya muhimu sana. Na sasa ningependa kuihadithia kwa njia yangu mwenyewe. Huyu ni rafiki yangu anapigwa. Labda ingekuwa mimi. Lakini mbona hakuna yeyote wa kuzuia haya? Makosa ya rafiki yangu ni kwamba.
Okay, so the director of this movie is with us online here. Pete, welcome again to Spotlight. Can you just quickly tell us, are those like, were these characters, are they actors? More, that's a better question. Are they actors, or is this like a real life movie?
Thank you so much for having me in your show. This is a documentary, and this is a story, very life. And I just wanted to say that Samuel, who's the main character, is a real human being. And his story is basically a story about family, a story about love, a story about acceptance. But also, it's a story of a young African man and the difficulties of being queer in Africa. But also, it has a lot of optimism and also the story. So that's what documentary is about.
When you, after your experience filming this movie and getting a glimpse into the lives of gay persons, or have you followed the conversation in Ghana about this LGBTQ plus bill?
Yeah, I've been following the conversation in Ghana and about the bill. And for me, even when I was listening to the previous conversation, the guest, actually, it was making me very sad.
Why?
Because, you know, in a sense, I was looking about, there's that part about adoption. And basically, you are treating a class of fellow Africans like us as second-class citizens, like they don't have the right even to adopt. And I'm trying to figure out what standards are they using? Like, how do you decide who should adopt and who should not? What is, because the point is, it can't be religion, because even this religion is not African. I remember we had previously, before Christianity came, like there was different standards. So I'd really like to know what is the barometer that is being used to classify who is better than the rest. Because what is important, we have to recognize. We should say as human beings, from the moment you're born, we're all equal. It doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your religion, it doesn't matter your sexual orientation. We should start from there. And then we should acknowledge your differences. We're different, yes. We don't have to agree, but agree there's diversity in us as human beings. So that's where I come from, and that's my way of thinking. And as a journalist, I push for equality for everyone, be it race, class, or orientation, sexual orientation.
Do you think there should be medical intervention as prescribed here in the bill for intersex persons?
To be honest, I find science like sometimes when politicians start mingling with like medical interventions, I think like medical intervention should be for the benefit of saving lives and improving lives, and that should be left to like a medical governing body. I don't see why like members of parliament and politicians are deciding what should be medical intervention and should not, because medical intervention, why we invented it as human beings, was to improve our lives, was to make us feel better about ourselves and save our lives. So I don't think in intersex we should be having that argument, what should be medical or not. Like that's a different question, and it's for the experts and the individual people who want that intervention. But I think it will be legislation in mass scale like this.
So you think there should be some kind of amendment to these portions of the bill or to all of the bill?
So no, I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm just speaking like broadly. I know like when people talk about medical intervention, I don't like the broad brush talks of talking about people's personal lives being legislated by other politicians who I don't think they're experts. So I think this is the wrong forum even to be talking about it.
Right. Thank you, Pete. Pete Murimi is the director of I Am Samuel, a Kenyan movie. And let me just bring our other guest into the conversation, who is also a pastor. It would be interesting to listen to his angle, if he agrees with Prof here, who has just spoken. Pastor Emmanuel Alote, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. I can hear you very clearly now. Pastor Emmanuel Alote is a leader and founder of Amazing Light Question Center. Welcome to Spotlight. It's the first time we're interviewing you here. Thank you for your time. You've listened to the conversation so far.
Yeah.
Have you? Do you know anything about intersex persons?
Well, I think let's say good evening to your listeners and viewers. I think Prof has said a lot about the issue. You know, when somebody is born with congenital issues, do you criminalize the person? Someone who is born with congenital issues, you don't criminalize the person for anything. Fortunately for us, we have transgender issues where we can do corrective surgery. People are nowadays doing body enhancement. They find themselves not feminine enough. And so they're going for more backs and things just to enhance their femininity. So if now if you want to look at creation, the first blind man who has his eyes open, but said he couldn't see, let's go back and see how he was treated. While others were saying, oh, maybe he can't see. Others would say, no, he's a lazy person. Let's force him to work. He has to work. The person says, I can see. You know, so religiously, the bill is neither here nor there. Culturally, it looks a bit primitive. And morally, too, it's defeatist. So I side with what Prof has said. We have to exercise some restraint and understand the plight of these people with hormonal balances and imbalances. Understand? Yeah.
Do you think it's possible for the African society to be able to normalize people being intersex or gay? We
have to learn together. We have to learn together. You know, the world evolves. There have been times back that people, when were born, were thought to be an abomination or a taboo, limbless people who were Down syndrome, were having Down syndrome issues. They were killed instantly because they felt they were a taboo to humanity. But for now, what do we see? We've allowed them to integrate, and we have some of them rising to become men of God and things. You see, so we have to learn together. I don't think there is somebody somewhere saying that we should ask men to get married, and then female. This is what the younger ones are hearing. We are misinterpreting everything. I think what they want us to know is that there are people with these issues. There are people with these issues. So when we find them amongst us, we should be considerate enough. And we are failing to listen. The people we have in Ghana here are not imported. They are our own children. We brought them into this world, and they have those challenges. We have some who are hermaphrodites. We know. But why are we pretending as if we don't care, we don't want to hear? When someone says, I'm blind, you say you are not blind. How do you judge it? How do you assess it? What I think should be done is our medical practitioners, they must come out boldly and tell us. And I don't know why they are so quiet on this matter. They have to come out boldly and say, because this is not about religion, it's not about culture, it's about congenital matters, issues. You see, so we are not being fair. And for example, this bill, Parliament doesn't have to vote in open. They should do it in secret. Otherwise, you are bringing all parliamentarians under duress. If you bring somebody under duress, he doesn't tell the truth. He says things that will suit your desire or serve your interest. So we have to learn as Africans to understand these issues. And if you don't learn to get there...
Let me get this point, Pastor Emmanuel. You're saying the ballot should be secret in Parliament.
It must be secret. Otherwise, we are putting them under duress. You are forcing them to say something they don't want to say. You see?
Do you think a secret ballot would produce different results from a public ballot?
No, I'm sure there are some parliamentarians who also have the view that maybe like Trump is having, and I'm also having. But if they want to serve their constituency, they want to come again, they wouldn't vote against. So that people outside there, the constituency would vote them out of power. And that's not fair for democracy.
Right, thank you, Pastor Emmanuel. Those are some interesting views. Let me go to Adam Shoneje, who is still on the line. He's the Executive Director of Keywatch Ghana. Adam.
Yeah, hello.
Right. When you listen to all these conversations going on in the public and you look at this bill where intersex persons are clearly mentioned and a prescribed supposed treatment offered and some limitations also placed on them, how do you feel?
First of all, I am amazed actually that people who are medical practitioners, people who are men of God, people who are faith leaders, are actually read these things and rotate, and then at each point they tend to shift the table. So when it suits them most, the tables become, we are fighting against sexuality. When it next suits them, it becomes a congenital something. When it next suits them, they are comparing intersex to cleft palate and the sickle cell and the rest. I think the whole jam in, I've almost written about 7 pages out of that, and it will digress us from the main issue, so I won't go into that.
No, that's fine. Let's hear your reaction.
What I want to say categorically is that being intersex, one, is about biology. It is something that shows that you can either be male, you can be female, you can be partially male, partially female, overly female, neither male, neither female, or both male and female. Intersex characteristics are about your chromosome patterns, about your genitalia being ambiguous or being non-binary to either male or female, are about groins. Intersex is obviously from birth, about ambiguity. Some in situations, the ambiguity, it's so obvious, where we see in the one that we call, which is an abusive name, which has been called here. That name is not good to be called, so I won't even mention it.
Right.
Where the genitalia, the person has two genitalia, it's what people are like normalizing as the only intersex thing. No, but in science, as people are saying that, we have over 45 intersex variations. 45 no intersex variations. And then many of the variations are such that you don't even know you have it. So you and your panelists could be intersex without knowing.
Okay.
Out of all these 45.
I think I also need to get a medical screening.
It's not a sickness for you to go and correct and all that. In situations where it's so high in a way that disturb you, you are supported with to what? Bring it to a level that is okay with you. So if someone is XXY, somebody has a condition 47 or 45, somebody has OX, somebody has CAH, somebody is AIS, and all these are various types. I want to mention all the conditions. But to say that people come to you, people say, and then they go and do those tests and all that, and they come and you ask them, where do you want to belong and where do you not want to belong, and then it's because at that point, that person now sees that, okay, medically, this affirms what I am, and that person is towards that level. So that person can either choose, let me take more hormones to affirm it, or let me not. I'm okay the way I am.
So are you saying they should be able to choose, Adam? Are you saying they should be allowed to? Are you saying they should be allowed to make a choice?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is why we are fighting or advocating that intersex children born intersex, where it is visible, where it is atypical, should not be surgically corrected.
Okay.
For them, that choice should not be made by their doctors and caregivers or parents. You saw recently GH1 made a documentary about some twins, who the doctor advised the parents that these twins, although they have atypical genitalia, both the male and female, are more of female hormones at birth. So they are girls, and the parents went to pierce the ears, dress them, give them aqualia, cocoa, and started taking care of them as girls. But by puberty, just obvious everybody, those are not girls. And now they need support. They are looking for support to affirm being boys, and looking for support to change their legal documents on birth cert and the rest to become male. That it's obvious to everybody. Although they have the ovaries, the womb, everything, they now have affirmed at a level. So at that point, such a person can be supported too. But you don't sit and say that because I am the parent, if I don't choose now, or I want a girl, or the doctor tells me this at birth, so I rush and do. If the parent of those twins had done the surgery at birth and removed the penis, excuse me to say on air, by now, how would those guys be feeling? In countries like Kenya, they took time to study this. And although Kenya has not accepted the full LGBT this thing into their things, they've actually added a third gender, where even in their documents you have male, female, or intersex, and they have upheld even to the primary level being intersex. But we have prepared such a beautiful bill. I said it's beautiful because I cannot believe faith people sat and wrote this thing. And
so what do you think should be done with the bill, Adam? Should there be any amendments? Because at least
first of all,
Reverend agrees.
There's a lot. This bill, all of a sudden they are talking that this bill is a draft. That's why I say the tables keep shifting. All of a sudden, you present something to Parliament, which is at the first stage, where somebody is saying that it should be passed quickly. Nobody can bulldoze them to delay or do the right thing or follow due process, because common sense says it should be passed. Common sense says it should be passed fast. And that bill is now being told here, right now, that is now a draft. That bill is a final document presented as a bill to Parliament. If Parliament goes through it now, and the committee says everything we accept on that bill will have to be debated and passed in Parliament. If they say no, go and change this is how we have the affirmative bill, the bill on succession, where women, when it was presented, it was put there that if you stay with a woman for 5 years, automatically when you die, she has a part to your estate. It was thrown out, and they are to go and work on it. The information bill and all that. They were finished documents presented. If they are thrown out back to you, then you can now go and work on some part of it. But we will not say here and change the tables that this document all of a sudden it is no more a complete document, and we are now reviewing some parts, we are now working on some parts, and then intersex, I keep saying, is a biology. Intersex people are not feminine, so if you see somebody feminine and comes to do hormonal tests with you and things with you, does not mean that person is intersex. Femininity or masculinity is not a definition or as a way to show somebody is intersex or not.
Adam, do you think there's any psychological trauma associated with being intersex in Ghana?
Heavily.
Why is that?
Yes. Somebody have sat and seen, your panelists have seen the medical side. I've seen the economic, I've seen the social, I've seen even the faith side of it being intersex. And most of the people, you see, when you see the middle income Ghanaian who can afford a bit of luxury, the moment they have those children and things they support, they go to the high schools where they will not even be disturbed. But our grandmothers and our friends and families in the village are people who are suffering. And we are putting a law which is going to put them more into danger than ever. That a child who does not even know why I have intersex traits, why I am there, every time of the month, I am male. Everybody knows I am male. I don't have a female organ. Every time of the month, I have like menstrual cramps. And he doesn't even know it's menstrual cramps because there's no bleeding. His sperm is so red, he has issues, doesn't know what it is. Doesn't even know, he goes to hospital, he's just giving some paracetamol, the health center, he goes back home. Because by 5 days, that cramps is gone. And this person who is intersex, who is fully male with male organs, does not know that he's ovulating. And you think this bill would do that person a favor? People are going through a lot. Instead of protecting the minority group, protecting intersex persons, protecting people who are the less, because statistically, we have about 1.7 million people who are intersex worldwide.
Right. Thank
Mostly
you.
in Africa, we don't count.
Thank you,
so I'm not sure our data has any added to that.
We don't have too much time, but I'll come to you for your closing remarks. So just think about it there. Prof, let me come back to you. Any reaction to the submissions as yours were referred to? Would you like to react to any of the submissions?
Well, it's Adam. It's quite interesting listening to Adam.
Do you think there's a misunderstanding here between society and these minority groups?
I find the use of the word biology in Adam very interesting and fascinating. Adam uses biology as if words like chromosomes, genetics are all not part of biology. What does he mean by biology? It's completely wrong. The way he's just taking biology as if it's something different from... Look, biology simply means that what we're talking about, so intersex, appears to have occurred because there have been some aberrations in the process of self-division. I mean, you were born with a thing. And that's why I say fundamentally that if you're born with a thing, if you're born with any, and why do we think that if somebody is born with any other thing, we can correct it? And that's why I keep citing analogies. And sometimes when you cite the analogy, then people get very worried. But it's the same. If your child was born and didn't have a urethra, think about it. It didn't have a urethra. Would you say it's biology? So leave it like that. Is that what you say?
But I think when he says biology, he means this is how they were born.
So they were born like that. That's what you're saying. If you say biology, that's what you mean. This was at birth. So if your child was born, that's my asking. If your child was born without a urethra, would you make an intervention? Would you say?
Prof, in countries like South Africa, there's Australia, Malta, there are actually legislations. And this reason, Adam said we should rather be protecting these minority groups.
No.
In other countries, they have laws, legislations that actually protect.
No. Let us be careful here. You see, we are mixing two things that are very slippery. You can give birth, and the birth is fraught with certain or affected by certain abnormalities, certain aberrations. And when that happens, as I'm asking you that, I said earlier, there's a certain scientific hypocrisy that we are all battling with. If your child is born, by saying that it's biology, what is simply saying that it is determined at birth. That's what he's trying to say by saying it's biology. If your child was born and didn't have a urethra, would you want a correction? It's a very simple question. Because the argument is that if a child is born, it's intersex, leave the child. When the child grows, the child will correct it. It's the same argument. It is an aberration. So if the child is born, doesn't have a means of passing urine, doesn't have a means of passing stool, those are also biology. It's a mistake that happened. Will you leave the child and say that let the child grow? There's certain hypocrisy that's ongoing. And I have said, now you see, and again, the second part I find about Adam's
Prof, but if we leave these people alone, who does it harm? Does it harm anybody to allow them to decide?
Why do we think? You see, again, and that is a hypocrisy. Why do we always think that the intersex person wants to keep that? Think about the other side. You see, we are all thinking that.
But we've heard from them and they've...
How many have you heard from?
At least they want to be able to decide.
No, let's be careful. You see, I have worked with people, I told you earlier on, they would want to choose. You don't, it's your choice. There are others who will tell you, no, I feel I am more feminine. So I want to keep this. Look, there are others who have never touched it. But I've seen others who have added extensions. They have gone for proper assignments. They went for it. I mean, who prevented them? The point is that let us be careful that we don't put a group of people and think that they are stuck in what they are and they can't do anything about it. It's a dangerous discussion and a dangerous argument and thinking that when somebody is born with a certain condition, the person must be allowed because he is stuck in it. And we know that it's not true. That if everybody is stuck in what he is born with, then science is very hypocritical. That we shouldn't intervene at all when we see certain, challenges and difficulties in health. We shouldn't. 10% of people are born with alcohol, the condition to be, the proclivity to be alcoholic.
Alcoholism?
Yes. Will you say that because it is, they were born with that gene? Because the whole thing about biology...
in one minute.
Yes. The whole thing is that when you start talking about biology, there are two words. Let me explain this. The two words are, when you say something is determined, biologically determined, or something is influenced by environment. So when you say something is determined, what you mean is that, what you're saying is that A will by all means lead to B.
Okay.
That is causation. But when you say something influences, so our genes, our hormones, all of they influence our makeup. But they don't determine. When you say determine, it means that there are no other factors. But you know that if you are born here, you have the potential to speak a language in Ghana. If you are born in Europe, you will speak like a European.
Right.
So let's be careful that we don't say something is biology, and so it's biology. There cannot be any intervention at all. It's very funny to hear this kind of argument.
Thank you, Reverend Professor Joseph Osafo. He's head of the Department of Psychology at the University of Ghana. He's also a reverend at the Church of Pentecost. Let me just go to Emmanuel Alote, who is also a pastor and is with us this evening. Please give me your closing remarks in 1 minute. You think there's some misunderstanding going on here between these minorities and the Ghanaian society?
The bill. I'm speaking against the bill.
Okay.
And so I don't think the intervention I'm talking about is not for to say that they don't have their right to live. Perhaps I'll tell an example that these days you have people going for body enhancement and things. Therefore, if somebody is a female and he finds himself in a male body, this enhancement can make him become whatever he wants to do. That is why you have the transgender. But no intervention can change their position.
Okay.
They should be allowed to have their way. That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you.
Intervene and then impose certain things on them. They should be left to be free.
Thank you,
That's
Pastor Emmanuel Alote. He is saying there should be no intervention. People should be allowed to be free. Now let me go to Pete Morimo. Just give us a quick summary of your opinion in a minute, please.
Conversation, like basically legislation should be fair, legislation should be about improving lives and considerate to all of us. And in this bill, they should actually think, is this legislation going to improve the lives of all Ghanaians? And is it fair to all Ghanaians? That's my message.
Thank you so much, Pete Murimi. He's the director of the movie I Am Samuel. And so let me get our last remarks from Adam Sean. Quickly sum it up for us in 1 minute.
Thank you. Yeah, to say that a child born without a fecal passage, it's which needs to be corrected, and the passage open, because sometimes it's just a little flesh or things covering up the place, and the passage created well for that, but it's a sexuality or a sexual condition which used to just support this sexual characteristics discussion we're having today. It's very wrong. It's very wrong. We can't compare sexual characteristics to a fecal, a child born without a fecal having a place to pass urine or to defecate or all that. True, it's a wrong comparison. Yes, it's a wrong comparison. And also to say that intersex lives are valid. Intersex lives should be left to intersex people to determine, not people who sit in the church, the faith basis, and the parliament to determine. You cannot police. Look at the rights of the child. Also, you got Article 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 6 as well, says that having such things against a child is even against the right of the child, forcing the child on medication, on some things. So sometimes, see, this time is so small, and you give him so much time to muddy the whole waters. So sometimes it's difficult to actually put a lot of points and explain part, but I think we can get another time. In all, I believe that this bill should be withdrawn. And
thank you so much, Adam. I want to believe I gave everyone enough time to explain their points. I think Reverend even agreed that a part of the legislation should be amended, at least despite all his opinions, which weren't accepted across board. At least there's something that he agrees on about amending the bill that has been put forward. So to our viewers at home, if you're watching, the conversation continues on our social media handles at MX24GH. Remember to drop your opinions right there on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. My name is Nwong Falong. Thank you for joining us on Spotlight this evening. Please don't go away. Marie is coming up right after I leave with the evening's news. Good evening.